present this item, and then we're going to have a presentation from Heber Power, and then after that we'll open up the public hearing. So, Mr. Cole.
We have, is that Harold back there? Hey, do you mind coming up here and helping me out here?
Bailing him out or helping him out?
Help me out here, because I don't have all the details. Thank you, yeah. So this is Harold with, Harold Wilson with Heber Planning Power. I'm Tony Kohler with the Heber City Planning Department. Tonight, this item is a public hearing regarding the proposed Heber Planning Power transmission line. I'm going to do a brief presentation. I'm not going to get into the technical aspects of what's being proposed. I'm going to leave that to the power company, but I will kind of give a brief overview of why the power company is here tonight. The power company essentially is asking for a conditional use permit for transmission line that will be running through the maps as shown up here. I apologize, the green color comes from the Jordanelle Dam, down along Highway 40, around the northwest part of Heber, and then over to Midway. The purpose of the aerial photo that you see here is to show that Heber City is just one cog of the entire system. The approval tonight is not for that entire system improvement, but just for those little areas within which that power line runs through the city. And on the zoning map, you can see that the proposed line will run through the commercial zone, the R2 with the clustered open space overlay zone. Then it will come in the unincorporated county and again enter the city in the C4 commercial zone, R1 residential zone, I1 residential zone. Not going to get into detail, but this focuses on that north of town, Highway 40 and Elbridge Apartments in Muirfield. You can see the line runs from where it dead ends, the big steel pole, and west outside of the city limits right here. The right aerial photograph illustrates Country Meadow, the recreation complex and the ball diamonds. You can see there's a loop here that's illustrated, and Heber Planning Power will describe that a little bit later in more detail. I measured about 1.68 lineal miles in the city. I don't know how much of the proposed whole project that is, but it's certainly a smaller part. The city code was amended about a year and a half ago. Originally, this type of application would go to the Board of Adjustment, and in fact, Heber Planning Power did make an application that went to our Board of Adjustment about a year and a half ago, and the council asked for the code to be changed for this type of an application to come to the Planning Commission. And we amended the code. The code requires 2 public hearings, and this is the first of a set of 2 required public hearings that the Planning Commission will hold. Heber Planning Power voluntarily rescinded their application to the Board of Adjustment because they felt that even though they didn't have to, upon their legal guidance from their attorney, they felt that this would be a better way to go based on our advisement and coaxing because it, number 1, has 2 public hearings. Number 2, the City Council found it in their wisdom to adopt this process, and I think it's wise because what we can do is we can gather input tonight. The Planning Commission is not going to make a decision tonight. What they will do is they will hear from the public, and after the public hearing tonight, they can question the power company and provide feedback on what they would like to see at the second public hearing. The date of the second public hearing has not been set. Here's a copy of the code amendment that the council adopted last year. Basically, water, sewer, and electric buildings and structures may be constructed in all residential zones subject to approval of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission will hold 2 public hearings per application. The Planning Commission may require conditions which are reasonably necessary to protect environmental quality, including noise mitigation, health and safety, and to protect surrounding property values and residential amenities. Some of the key part that the council added, by the way, is this last part, the last 2 or 3 sentences. The first sentence actually was in the code. It just referred to the Board of Adjustment, and then the council added the public hearings, and then the Planning Commission, as well as standards for measuring a conditional use permitted for approval. So really the policy question in this approval process for the Planning Commission is what conditions of approval are required to mitigate the negative impacts of the proposed transmission line in respect to environmental quality, noise, health and safety, surrounding property values, and residential amenities. A conditional use, just so everybody knows, is fairly close to a permitted use. It is not something that the city can arbitrarily say, you know, we just don't want this. Conditional use, if the petitioner can demonstrate that they've adequately mitigated the negative impacts, they are supposed to be approved. So this is not something that is going to be an easy decision because we're going to hear the good and the bad from the public tonight. And it's going to be tough because you have to determine, number one, if the conditions have been mitigated, if they're reasonable conditions, and you're going to have people that aren't happy with you if the petitioner can demonstrate that those have been those conditions have been mitigated. So it's going to be difficult for you. Recommendations tonight from staff are that you listen to the public, that you don't make a decision, but you do provide some feedback to the petitioner on what you would like to see at the second public hearing, whether it's more information or what have you. As a starting point, we've obviously caught wind of what has been recommended to the county, and I hope that Heber Planning Power can update us on what's happened with Wasatch County's permit. But as a starting point for conditions to discuss, burial of distribution lines is something that we've heard the power companies talked about. The use of wooden poles when possible. Eliminate as many guy wires as possible. On steel poles, use rustification. Use non-spectral wire. And utilize the most efficient design that minimizes the number of poles. With that, I've asked the Planning Commission if we could have the power company do a presentation on what they're proposing. That way people, I think, will have a better capability of asking better questions and being more informed. With that, Harold, if you don't mind taking over.
You can stay right there. You got a microphone right there in front of you, so you're good right there.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Planning Commission. My name is Harold Wilson. I'm Operations Manager for Heber Planning Power, and we appreciate you seeing us tonight and hearing our application. As Tony said, this is a regional project that we're working on in partnership with Rocky Mountain Power. Ben Clegg is joining me now. He is the project manager for Rocky Mountain Power on this project. Want to go forward, Tony? We're going to cover a few things here as we go to kind of give a basis for the project, and a little history and a little need and necessity. As you see here, Heber Planning Power's need and necessity I will address. Way back in 2011, 2012, we being Heber Planning Power, made application for a second point of interconnect for the Heber Valley. At this point in time, we only have one interconnection point with our transmission provider, who is Rocky Mountain Power. At that time, we requested a point of interconnect, and that set the ball rolling as to get us to this point. As the slide indicates there, we have a 46 kV line that goes across the Heber Valley that needs rebuilt. It was built the late 60s, the late 70s. It needs updated and upgraded to serve the capacity of our customers, as well as it is just a dated line that needs rebuilt. Pacific Corp is our provider, and we're looking to gain a second point of interconnect with them so we can serve the valley from 2 points and increase our capacity to serve the growing valley as well as our reliability. If you look at this chart that we have here, this is a chart of our capacity and also the load that the Heber Planning Power has on its system at this point. If you look there, the orange is our 2018, the December 2018, that's where our demand was. And then the red is July 2018, that's the demand that our system hit in 2018. The next black circle you see out is our capacity. As you see, we are running really fast towards the excess capacity that we have. This project, when it's all said and done, will move our capacity out to the outer dark circle that is shown on this graph. So we will do more than double our capacity at that time.
Rocky Mountain Power, as Harold mentioned, is partnered with Heber Planning Power in this project. Rocky Mountain Power has some specific needs as well. Going back over a decade, we've been looking at getting a line that will connect our Jordan Mill substation, which is kind of a toe of Jordan Mill Reservoir on the old Highway 40, and having a line that will connect it over to Midway substation. Both of those are 138 kV substations, but they're fed radially, which means they only have one direction that could feed that substation. We were looking for a path and siting to have a transmission line that would connect those, so that were there an outage on a line that feeds Jordan Mill, say to the north, that we would be able to continue to serve all of the load at Jordan Mill as well as throughout the rest of the valley during that outage, and also vice versa. If there were an outage up the canyon, Provo Canyon, we would be able to feed all the load through the valley all the way down to Wallsburg from transmission lines to the north. So this is an important project to us because it will allow us to loop the system, providing a significant increase to reliability. Also, as Harold mentioned, Heber Planning Power is one of our customers as well. In this valley, we have both retail customers, as in customers with Rocky Mountain Power meters at the actual end user, as well as Heber Planning Power, who has retail customers. And Heber Planning Power, through various power purchase agreements, has assets all throughout the West, but we transmit that power across our transmission lines and deliver them to Heber Planning Power, which send to their customers. And this project is important to allow us to feed that point of delivery. So just a little background on this. We can advance the slide, please. So just bullet points. Rocky Mountain Power, Heber Planning Power's transmission provider. We both have franchises throughout the county. Heber Planning Power requested the point of delivery in 2012, and a system impact study was done, which is basically a study to say what's going to take to get this done to provide that service. And the result was a connection, a path essentially that went through the valley and connected those two substations. And in addition, Heber Planning Power, as Harold mentioned, needs to rebuild that south line. It's old, it needs to be rebuilt regardless. And so a lot of the siding on the line, we looked at and said, if it's got to be rebuilt anyway to the latest standards, why not follow that? Go ahead and advance the slide. I'll let you talk about the facility.
So this journey, the permitting process started in 2017, as Tony mentioned, in December We met with both Wasatch County Planning Commission and we met with Heber City Board of Adjustments. When we all went to Heber City's, Wasatch County Planning Commission, they sent us away with a to-do list of some different things that they wanted to see from us before they heard our application again, and similar with Heber City's Board of Adjustments. At that point in time, we had a changeover on the Heber Planning Power Board. We had some new members, some new mayors, some new members, and at that point, they requested us to work with the Facilities Committee of the Heber Planning Power Board, which is made up of 3 members of our Power Board. That committee began to meet regularly, and they began to bullet point things that they wanted to look at and some things that they felt like the project needed and needed to be addressed and changed and so forth. So as they met as a committee, we realigned some things. They made some hard decisions as a committee. They instigated some studies that needed to be done. One to say this is for sure necessary. They wanted a system study to see what it would cost to do the project underground. And at the end of the day, they wanted to help mitigate the impact to the citizens of the valley. So as they went through this, to go through these bullet points, the committee reviewed the need and necessity. They reviewed the routing, made some changes to the routing. The committee reviewed the cost difference between an overhead project and an underground project based on an NEI study. NEI is an engineering firm that was contracted to do a study to give us a rough cost of what underground would cost. The committee then reviewed every structure type through the whole project, and then the committee made some recommendations to the Heber Planning Power Board. So some of those recommendations that they made to the Heber Planning Power Board and that were accepted were to remove all of the distribution lines from these transmission structures to help mitigate height as well as pole span and length, to make all the poles wood where possible. Once again, to allow heights so the spans are as long as possible, so to reduce the amount of poles. They chose to go with a dull colored conductor, and then they also chose to relocate the point of delivery substation, which was set to be behind, between Heber Planning Power's facility and the Wasatch County Event Center on property which Heber Planning Power currently owns. So those were the basis of what the Facilities Committee sent us back to the Planning Commission for. So the actions today for the Heber Planning Power Board is that they confirm the need for a new point of delivery from the bulk transmission system, which is from Rocky Mountain Power. They examined why Heber Planning Power was even doing this project with Rocky Mountain Power. The board evaluated the costs of taking all or part of the line underground and what that would cause, what that would do to our ratepayers. The board evaluated the transmission line routing, and they had several public meetings and have taken public comment throughout this process. Approved by the board's actions moving forward with an overhead line and to diligently work with each entity that is willing to pay to take any section of this line underground. So the completed studies that we've had done in April 2018, we had the underground transmission feasibility study done by NEI. In June, we had a load flow study by ICP, which is an engineering firm out of Salt Lake, that did a study on our system to show basically the need and why we need the additional capacity to our system. And then in July, Utility Solutions, Financial Solutions, did a load flow forecast for us for where our load is going to go in the future.
You saw this map, although it wasn't quite as large as this before, and just walking through the siting on the north edge of this project. Kind of at the northern end of town, along Highway 40, where the plant bypass corridor will turn and head to the west. There's an existing steel transmission structure, and it's about 10th north approximately. In this application that's before you, we turn and head west from that transmission structure until we exit the city. We've identified approximately 6 spans, so 6 or 7 poles in that section. And that would follow what is planned to be the north side of the bypass corridor. The bypass corridor right now is in various, I guess, probably feasibility planning stages, and in coordination with DOT, it was determined that staying north would provide them the utmost flexibility and being able to site out where they really need to be. Going to the next slide, this is just south of the ball fields around the county complex. So it's probably easier to start at the square on the northeastern corner there. That was where the original point of delivery when the project was submitted to the Board of Adjustments was cited. Harold just mentioned that. So if you head directly west out of that, several of those structures are going to be rebuilt as part of this project to tie into the transmission line that will head a little bit further west. Starting at structure 314, if you can see that on Southfield Road there. Coming down county, it actually comes down the west side of Southfield Road to structure 314, which is currently where a transmission line exists. That's the north line. They call it, the Heber Power calls it the north line. It will turn and go 2 spans to what is planned to be the west side of the bypass corridor.
East.
Or excuse me. Yes, the east side. Excuse me. Thank you, Carl. Where we will turn at structure 316 and follow down the east side of the corridor to structure 320. To be clear, that is just like the northern section that I mentioned before. These are new poles where there are not existing transmission poles, just for clarity's sake. It heads west out in the county from there, turning back to the east at structure 320. That's on the south line, that follows the south alignment, where Heber Power going along will have a double circuit transmission line that goes all the way up to H10, where it turns and goes back to the gas plant. So and Harold can talk a little bit about this, but they've got a small amount of local gas plant generators there that they use when electrical prices are really high. They're keeping some.
Right. And like Ben said, from 320 back into our substation and also from 314 back into our substation, we will just be rebuilding the existing line that's there, and those will just be Heber Power poles. Like I said earlier, on the south line that's down at 650 South, that is a line that was built in the late 70s. We do not have the capacity on that line to continue to serve the load that we need to, and so we will be upgrading those poles, and we will be going pole for pole through that area. So it's not like we're going to be shifting and moving alignments through there. Basically, we will set a new pole next to the old pole and take the old pole out through across 650.
Advancing to the next slide. So a couple of renderings were produced to show at a couple of locations what before and after might look like. This is at 113 as it crosses from the transmission line. I guess we're on 113 looking east.
At Southfield.
At Southfield Road, yeah. Just east of the west of Southfield Road. And the above photo is the before this project is done, and after is below. So that's one view. And then we have another view, if you don't mind. This is the, I don't know why they sized that way. Sorry for the pain with this. This is looking at
this is on 600 West out in the North Fields, about 10th North or 12th North, looking back to the south towards Southfield North.
Kind of southwest. So that's before, and this is after. You can see those new structures. What's within the city itself would be on the left-hand side of this.
This is all county.
But we wanted to have you be able to see kind of what physically it would look like. Going through the construction timeline, and this is talking about the overall project as a whole. Wasatch County has granted a couple of separate conditional use permits for sections of the line along Highway 40, similar to the south line that we had along with the college substation by the campus up there that needed to be rebuilt. And in 2014, about a mile was done, and then in 2018, a mile was done. And phase 3 is to finish the rest of it. We're working on permitting and like to move forward with a detailed design on that. So as we get all of the permits for this, we're looking to finalize engineering and procure long lead equipment by this fall, and then build through next fall in 2020. We need to move forward to be able to maintain that schedule.
The variance application, I've covered quite a bit of this already, talking about coming here to Board of Adjustments in 2017. The city changed the process a little bit in March of 2018, so we resubmitted our application according to this new ordinance, which we were happy to do.
So, this was discussed a little bit. I'm going to just go over a couple of the state statutes. I've got it listed there on conditional uses. So, essentially, a land use authority shall approve a conditional use if reasonable conditions are proposed or can be imposed to mitigate the reasonably anticipated detrimental effects. And it has to be in accordance with an applicable standard, so it has to be a min-range standard. The requirement described in that section to reasonably mitigate does not require elimination of those detrimental effects. It's mitigation. Other statutes, if you go to the next slide, any conditions need to mitigate reasonably anticipated detrimental effects against the applicable standard. And the imposition of conditions is to achieve compliance. So I guess in essence, I could say, it needs to be measured against an applicable standard, and it needs to be to achieve compliance with that standard. The code that was, or the ordinance that was adopted, if you don't mind advancing to the next slide, we've already seen this today, and it reads very, very similarly. So that's really the scope of why I wanted to cover that. And this is what we're asking for in this application. We have this transmission line, and we walked through several of the mitigation that we've incorporated already in this design. And so, if you don't mind advancing to the next slide. So a few things that we've done. In this case, the substation for the point of delivery was relocated. A portion of the double circuit transmission from the application that Board of Adjustment saw has been removed. Distribution in some areas will be varied. This reduces pole heights. We've already included the use of wood poles where possible, self-supporting steel poles, so there will be guide wires. And we're asking that you give us some direction. Typically, self-weathering steel, just the sort of the rusticated, I think is the word that was used, for the brown tints to the poles and the shiny galvanized. But whatever you ask for, we would provide. And non-spectral wire. And consistent with what Heber Planning Power's board had suggested, they felt like the longer spans